at the back. Aidan, it's wonderful to have you too. Mary McAleese was here a few weeks ago and she said to me, behind every great woman, she said, there's a man who's a good listener and who can cook dinners. So, so Aidan, I'm sure you're a great listener and you cook dinners.
Totally. Yeah, very true. Very true.
Okay, so Catherine is, are we ready, Jim?
Yep, okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's a huge honour to introduce our speaker today, Catherine Corless. Catherine is a local historian, she's a tireless campaigner and fearless spokesperson, and she researched the deaths of 796 children. Those children had no burial records at the Bon Secours Mother and Baby Home in Tuam, County Galway. And as a child, Catherine was aware of this mother and baby home in Tuam, and she attended school with some of its residents. As an adult, she took a course in local history, and as a local historian, she forensically and rigorously researched civil records and wrote about the home where 796 children had died. Her research has been widely disseminated, and she has appeared on the Late Late Show and in national and international media. So she's somewhat of a household name. We all feel that we know you, Catherine. As an adult local historian, her work has been recognised, and in 2015, the Commission of Investigation into Mother and Baby Homes was established, and its report was published in 2021. Her passion, her care, her respect, her sense of justice and injustice has propelled her research. In recognition of her pioneering work in 2018, she was awarded Galway Person of the Year. In the same year, she received an honorary degree from Trinity College Dublin and an honorary doctorate from the National University of Ireland in Galway. In 2019, she was awarded another honorary Doctorate of Literature from University College Dublin. Her outstanding work has been recognised both internationally and nationally. And on behalf of the Irish Institute for Catholic Studies, it's a huge privilege, it's a great honour, and it's a real opportunity for us to have you here today and to listen to your work and your research. Give a big boola bus for Catherine.
Well, thank you, Trish, and thank you all for coming out for a half an hour or so, whatever, how long you want me here. But where do I start? It's been a long, long journey. It starts way back, you could say, about 12 years ago, and I was never a campaigner as such. I just set out to do this and to campaign for the Tuam babies. The reason was I started out doing a very simple essay for a local historical journal, the history of the Bon Secours sisters in the Tuam home. I hadn't known much about it because we thought it was an orphanage when we were small. We weren't told much. It opened in 1925 and it closed in 1961. So I was quite young when it closed down. But my passion has been to be a voice for those babies who were forgotten about completely. In my essay, I started to research the Bon Secours, and as I thought, the history of the orphanage. But it turned into something completely different, something terrible that I could never come across or that I didn't know how to handle at the time. The first inclination in my research on the Bon Secours, the mother and baby home, was that a lot of children had died there. And I thought that was terrible, and I had contacted the Bon Secours sisters, contacted the Galway County Council who owned the site, but I couldn't get any information anywhere, nothing in our local library, nothing about the home, and I thought that a bit strange. And that made me curious, and it was this curiosity that got me to where I am today. Because the hardest thing I had to deal with was when I found out that up to 800 children had died. And because death records are They're public records, and anyone can go into the General Registry Office, the local registry office, and find the deaths. I did this because someone had mentioned to me that a lot of children died there in the home, a lot of locals around the place. People knew stuff, but very few people would talk about it. It was kind of a hush-hush affair. That's gone, that's in the past, and you know, why are you asking these questions? And that stirred something in me that I had to do something. And when I found out that I got the names of 796 children and babies and toddlers who died in the home, and I tried to find their burial records. I assumed they'd be buried in the main cemetery just across the road from where the home was. But nothing of the 796, not one name of those 796 children could be found in the caretaker's burial book. So back I went again to the Bonsecourt sisters, the headquarters in Cork. I said, do you realise so many people died in the home? And their answer was, well, we weren't there at the time. There's no records kept. They're obviously buried. Maybe the families brought them back to their plots. I said, I doubt that very much. I said, the way the rule was at the time, when the mother had a baby in the home, she was forgotten about, the babies were forgotten about. They weren't even allowed back to their own village. So I reckon that not a grandparent wasn't going to bring home a baby, that they had told their neighbours and people that their daughter had gone to England, that they wouldn't let on that she was in the mother and baby home. So, okay, we had 796 babies, children, toddlers missing, and nobody caring. So, where did I go then? I was talking to the local caretaker and talking to locals, and they gave the hint. It was always a hint or a hush-hush, or don't say I said this, don't use my name. But there are children buried there in that little plot, and on the county council, where the housing estate was built. There's a big square area, a big huge playground, and in the corner there's a little garden cordoned off. And I did my study on that. Someone said there was bones found here in the 1970s when they were building the houses and in that area. And someone found there's a tank there in that corner, they said, and two boys found the remains of bones in that tank area because it was full of shrubs at the time and the ground was giving way, and the two boys who were playing there, they came across children's skulls in a kind of as I thought, a kind of a pit. So that really got my curiosity going. So I delved into that then, and I had to look at very old maps of the area, which was the catalyst really into all this, into all I found out. And so I realised where the locals were saying where the boys found the bones, a lot of bones, children's bones. And another woman said that the children, those skulls around the place, and the children were actually going around playing with skulls because they thought they were kind of Halloween things at the time in the 1970s. And I thought this was horrific. And then what really got me was when I studied the old maps of the area and the exact place where the boys found the bones, I transferred the newer map back onto an old 1900 map. And where people said where the boys found the bones was exactly where the little cordoned off garden was. And so I reckoned then, I said, they have to be the home babies, because that sewer system was working when the workhouse was there. And that was how I really found out, because I was told at the time, if there's bones there, now I was told by the county council and by local authorities that if the bones that those little boys found, they were belonging to the famine times, because they said, you know, that's a workhouse, that was a workhouse. And I believed that for a while until I used the maps. And I came back to them and I said, that was a working sewage tank at the time of the workhouse. They weren't going to bury their dead there. It's not possible. So they could give me no answers for that. So that's when I really started my research and trying to prove that these had to be the home babies. Now what happened after that, I was a full year in 2013 after I wrote the essay, the local essay, trying to get the county council, trying to get I even made an appointment with our Archbishop Michael Leary at the time, and I was onto the Bonds Poor Sisters. A group of us met with them, just pleading with them. I mean, these children must be the home babies, and there was still no answer. There was nothing local. No, I couldn't get help from anyone, and that was a frustrating year. But in my mind, all these babies are missing, and nobody cares, just because they're illegitimate. They didn't seem to matter. And they kept telling me, the authorities now, they kept telling me, they're only bones, let them rest in peace. What are you bringing this up for? And they're in heaven now. That's what I got from a lot of people. And I mean, I must say the church itself, our local church, there were no help. They didn't want to hear about it. So I fought on. And eventually I realised that the only way that I could get anywhere was to contact the media. And lucky for me, the time being, it wouldn't have happened 10, 15 years, or it wouldn't happen, I wouldn't have the chance to do that in the 1990s, because the media wouldn't take it on. But in 2014, the media took it on board, and they took my story and they put it on the front page. It was the Mail on Sunday, and Alison O'Reilly, she came down to the house and she took my story. It was something that Aidan and I found tough at the time, because I had no actual evidence at the time, only the facts. I was dealing with facts that this had to be the case, but absolutely no evidence. So it was tough on us that time, because it appeared in the front of the paper and the word went around. Now, Ireland itself and the government were very slow to take up on that. And it was only when that story hit the front of the paper that it went across the world. All of a sudden, it went on to the Journal, it went on to America, and all of a sudden, everybody wants to know about it. Journalists, it turned into a huge story. And at the time, I know I was labelled as someone just looking for attention, someone trying to make themselves famous, and that there was nothing in it. And a lot of a lot of people, the highly religious people, came out against me, and but somehow, no matter what anyone said about me, I didn't mind, because I had my facts and I wanted answers. And eventually, the more people said these terrible things about me, it just didn't matter. I had this one mission. I knew the babies were there. I knew they had to be the home babies, and just because they were illegitimate, nobody cared. So from that, then the story went. Finally, the Irish government had to take notice, and they set up a commission of inquiry. And it was because they just couldn't get away from it. Once it went outside Ireland, they were really pushed into doing something about it. So they set up the commission of inquiry to look into the mother and baby homes in Ireland. They picked 14 homes that were state-run as well as religious-run. So Tuam was one of those. So time went on. I kept researching. I kept pressing every chance that I got. I wrote letters every side that I could to the government, and I kept the pressure up. And that went on for years, and fair play to the media. There was a lot of documentaries made, and the government were being asked questions from abroad. What's happening with Tuam? What's happening with Tuam? And in the meantime, I was getting a lot of hassle from Tuam itself, saying I was giving them a bad name, and could I not leave things so? But the worst of all came for me when it was discovered in 2017 that the government had set up a test excavation, and they took samples of the little bones, and they found out from carbon dating, they were able to carbon date the little bones, that they were there from the time of the mother and baby home. Now, that for Aidan and myself, that was a huge relief, because up to that, I don't know what would happen, you see, if that wasn't proven, or if they covered it up again, it would all fall apart, and God knows what would happen to us. But I had to take the chance, because I was driven to find the truth, and a good supporting family with me. And that day then, the cameras were down again, of course, RTE, the whole lot, and when they came down to Tuam then, they asked the Archbishop to make a comment. And instead of, he didn't appear himself, but he sent his secretary, Father Monaghan at the time. And I was quite naive at the time. I thought my job was finished now. The church, the county council, they're going to take this over, they're going to do the right thing. And anyway, at the site in Tuam, the RT cameras were there, and Father Monaghan came up to represent the Archbishop. And I, in my naivety, thought that this man is going to say, this is terrible, the church is going to take it on, this is abomination. Instead of that, what he said was at the time that, oh yes, we realise now that he was minimising it really. He said, okay, yes, they're the home babies, and we're so sorry to know that we didn't know about it. And he said then that, but let us not look at let us not look at the lens of the past. Like we do today. Things were different then. That's what he meant really. And let us memorialise the little ones. And that's what he said. And at that time, I think that's really that was me finished with the church's teaching at the time, because here was the one chance that priest had just to say, we'll take over. This is an abomination, but he didn't. It was covering up again, covering up. The layers of covering. It was just unbelievable. That the fact that nearly 800 children, babies, they were just down there. They were down there in a pit, in a sewage pit, because that was an old Victorian sewage system that was there since 1840 when the workhouses were built. And I just couldn't believe my ears. So I think that really gave me I couldn't take that. And lucky enough, I was asked to go on the Late Late Show. Now, I would be a person that would be way in the background, hiding from all media. From the forefront, I felt I couldn't put two words together. But something or somehow, I always felt it was the babies themselves that were crying out for justice, because it was terrible that a religious order would do that, just because they were illegitimate. And after that, then of course, it was, I thought the government would take over then, but they didn't. And it took a huge effort on my behalf and on others just to get the government to pass a law. No, that came out later. First of all, I thought the government could just take this over and just say, look, the hell with this, get these babies out of here, it's not right what happened. That's all I asked for. But that didn't happen. After a lot of pressure on the government, and Roderick O'Gorman was the new minister, that's right, the government changed hands at the time, and Roderick O'Gorman was the new Minister for Children and Youth Affairs. So he was quite helpful, and he met me on a few occasions, and he did come down to the site and had a look at it, which the others didn't. And finally then they decided that Tuam would have to be excavated. So then they decided then that they needed a law to exhume the babies, which we couldn't understand. It was delay tactics the whole time, and when I said, okay, pass the law, get these babies out here, that took a year for them to put that together. And by the time, because when the archaeologists were there in 2016, and when they found the remains, the head archaeologist, Niamh McCullough, at the time, she said, you need to get those babies out of there within 6 months. This was back in 2016. She told the government that because she said they're decaying. And I don't know what's left there now from the poor little things. But thankfully, at the end of the day, that was my journey. That was my fight. And finally, they hired a director, which took another year. And it's a willful delay and probably saving money. And I just wonder, what happened to the religious? What happened to the church? In my mind, what they preach is how important children are. They quote Jesus on earth, how he said not to harm the hair on the head of those little ones. And yes, they could just cover up all them. I don't know where they're, as I said, I don't know who they were praying to at the time, or how they could do it. In my mind, it was an abomination. It was cruel. It was how they treated the mothers. And there's so much I could go into, but it's a long synopsis, I know, but I don't know how many of you know the background and why I had to keep going, because no one else would. And being extremely fond of babies and children myself, I saw them as a load of bones in a pit. I saw them as potential little babies if they got half a chance. And from the research I did, I was able to, I found out that they were treated badly. The mothers were treated very badly in the homes in Tuam, and from talking to survivors. And the babies, I mean, the mother would breastfeed them in the morning, and she had to go and do her job. She'd come back again, and then in the evening again, she could feed them again. So that's the way it was. There was no time. They wouldn't let the mothers get close to the babies, which was horrific. And they must have suffered something terrible when the mother had to go after a year then. And they were just left there along with another bunch of the, as the woman in the home who spent her life in the home said, that they were like chickens in a coop. And because she was in the home all her life, and I got a lot of information from that woman who had, luckily enough, someone had taped her, had made recordings of her, and I got my hands on those recordings where she spoke truthfully about her time there and what happened and how badly neglected the babies were. And she used to say that she couldn't do a thing or she'd be punished if she opened her mouth. That's the way it was for the women in the home. And it's a complete, it was a heartbreaking journey, but one I had to go through. And well, at the moment, to bring you up to date, the director, Daniel McSweeney, who is the director of the site and the excavation, exhumation, the whole lot, they're going to do DNA testing of the babies in the hope that anyone who has an aunt or an uncle, or at this it would be an aunt or an uncle, I suppose, because the home closed in 1961, or any relation, that they have the right to retrieve that little body. And that was my aim at the start, to give each and every one of those babies who were thrown. They were literally put down one on top of the other in a shroud. Literally, just, I mean, the chambers themselves, they're not big enough for anyone to get into. They're 9 foot deep, and they were literally just placed down like a coffin, one on top of the other. That's what they thought of those little babies, little, beautiful little babies. And I see them as potential babies and children, and I can imagine them running around, and not just because the mothers were born out of wedlock. It was an awful, a terrible rule at the time. It was horrific, and it came from the church at the very beginning. And how could they decide to do this to a human being is beyond me, and especially babies. So at the moment anyway, they're going to be, maybe hopefully the end of this year, or maybe autumn. The director has an awful lot to do. He has teams of people to get together, archaeologists. It's a dangerous place because the housing estate was built right around it. And he has engineers in to reckon how they're going to bring in little diggers and that, to get them out one by one. They're not alone in the corner where many of you might have seen on the news, and that's where the tank is, in the chambers that are stuck onto the tank. And there's a huge playground. Part of that playground is over, where some of them got coffins or boxes at the time, because the home opened in 1925, and up to 1936, the sewage system wasn't, the sewage tank wasn't working at the time, and but it was after the sewage system closed down in 1937 and joined up with the main system that this old tank became defunct. So up to that, they were burying them in boxes in where the playground is now and the green area, and it's all going to be excavated. So that was my wish, just to give them a decent Christian burial, and it was an awful happening. And a lot of people are very annoyed with me still for bringing it out in the open at all. But what else could I do? Well, I felt I'd been asked to do this, or something drew me to it. I don't know what. But as I say, I don't go to mass anymore because, I mean, that was their duty. They preach. They weren't doing what they preach. And but I do believe in a superior being that wants the right thing done, and I find that in nature, I find it in children, but I don't go along with the church's teaching. I do like the Gospels, I do like the message in the Gospel, but for a church to preach all that, and yet they got a chance to open up and do something for the babies, and they didn't. So I just had no time. I couldn't have time after that. But that is my own personal decision. And I'll go back to the present, where all those little bones that have to come out of those pits, they are mingled, some of them, because water got into the chambers. They will be literally put back together like a jigsaw. It has to be done. And they will be given a little white coffin, which is what I asked for at the very start. So I feel my journey was worthwhile. And it's a message as well to Ireland and to the religious that it was wrong and it cannot happen again ever. It's a message to Ireland just to say that, I mean, how can we fix anything in the future, in the future and the present, if we don't go back and just undo the wrong that was done and to show people it was wrong, and that it may never happen again. It was something that I had to do. So we're up to the present now with that, and if you have any questions or anything, maybe I went on too long, I don't know. I never know what to talk about. It's just,
we could listen to you all day.
It was a long journey, it was, but I mean to say, I had no option. That's the way I saw it. This was just something I had to go through. And there was a lot of religious, over-religious people, you could say. There's a belt in America, they call it the religious belt or something. And a lot of them, they even printed material, and they printed a book that I was a liar, and that it wasn't a sewage tank, it was a catacomb, and that was done, and that's what the Bonsport sisters did, that it was a nice catacomb you could go down into. They put out all that rubbish, but they were discredited finally, but I knew the truth would come out, because I used to go by little idioms that I'd find, such as the truth is like a lion, let it loose. No, the truth is like a lion. Anyone know that verse? You do. Oh, sorry, no, I have it. The church is like the truth is like a lion. You do not need to defend it. Let it loose. It can defend itself. I've come across little things like that, and that'll give me courage to keep going. And I believed in it, and it has happened. And so that stuck to me, and that was it. I mean, somehow when I'd be feeling lost or afraid or needed or couldn't find a bit of evidence, something would come my way, either in the post or a phone call or something. Always came my way, and that gave me courage. And I said, this is something that I can't explain, but it's something that is waiting to happen. And it's just, it was remarkable that when I'd be stuck, or many a time I'd be half opting out, sometimes, something would arrive to give me the courage to keep going and to bring me to the next phase or up the next step to sort this out. So if anyone has any question or anything, or if I haven't covered anything, I hope I've given what you asked for.
Jim, do you want to turn off the recording?
Oh, yeah.
Just